Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Science and the Mystical, my favorite time always. Today we have Hilary Rafen Porter. I hope I said that right. And she is a light language architect and a multidimensional healer. I've known Hilary for some time now. We met, I think it was through Pacific Rim is where I first met you.
Yep.
It seems to make sense. Yeah. And some people call her a galactic weaver. She's certainly a cosmic poet. She's a Tamayana starseed oracle who's also a registered acupuncturist and a phytotherapist. Who knew you had so many accolades here? She works with plant spirit medicine, and she's known for her sacred geometry or sacred geometric grid work. I said that properly now this time. And she connects us to divine consciousness like nobody I know. I mean, honestly, what your offerings are incredible. And we've been having some computer hiccups this morning, so hopefully this will be a little bit better. So we know the energies are super high today. And of course, because you're here, everything is really well elevated. It's beautiful. And I would say you are so highly intuitive. So I am honored to welcome you.
Oh, I'm so grateful and excited to be here because I adore you.
Oh, thank you. Oh my goodness. Well, I love your new location, and it's just a beautiful temple that you have put together. What do you call it? Starseed
So we
Temple?
call it the Star Temple. It's the Star Temple. Yeah, it's home for both myself and then Derek Pennant, the Cosmic Messenger, who you've also had the pleasure, and they've had the pleasure of being on here with you. Yeah, so we share this space, and it became the Star Temple because the very first time we entered and I laid on the table, there's a skylight above.
Oh,
That's
yes.
okay. And I looked up and I was like, it's exactly like you're exiting a pyramid.
It's
And so
amazing.
it was just right. You lay down and you're just like, you're leaving. And depending what time of day it is, it's a different energy every single time you lay on it.
I've been on
Yeah.
that table, and it's like you're being bathed in starlight, even if it's the middle of the day. It's just there's something really
Yeah.
magical. Whether it was like that before you came, it may have been, but it sure is that now. It's like insane.
Well, let's just say it used to be home of ecom, like a Rogers provider. And so when you walked in, it was dark, it was black. It was like the person that redid it for us because we got it after somebody had been in here for about 10 years, and they redid it and they came in to fix something, and they were just like, this is nothing like what it was before. It was very 3D, and now, like you said, it's very astral, very, very astral. What I love about it is people come in, and the second they come in, they let out this sigh because it feels like that space where you just automatically can release and settle. But we've also done a lot of things in this space intentionally to make it have that vibration. So we have a 5G bioshield. So when you walk in, the 5G bioshield dampens all that negative and sticky energy that we get from the dirty electronics. And so that is basically eliminated once you enter in here. And then we have, I mean, you've seen it, a ton of crystals and the frequency healing that happens in here. Plus we have we call her Flo. She cleans the air. She's a
Oh.
Dyson. And so she also makes sure that the particulate in the actual air itself is completely cleaned out as well, to make sure that the space, we've taken care of all the details, let's put it that way, to make sure that the journey, the soul immersive that happens in here every time somebody journeys, whether it be virtually or actually in presence in the space, everything has been taken care of to help make it the coziest, most, I feel, at home space possible, right?
It is really beautiful. And I don't know what the dimensions of that room are, but when you walk in, it feels very vast, yet really like a cozy, like a womb. It's amazing. You
Yep.
truly have taken care of all the details.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's special.
It is special.
As are the people we come to see there. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
It's amazing. So we also did a workshop together, and it was on Tamiana healing. And I just did it once, and then you took it to the skies, like you went on a road show with it almost.
I had no choice.
Oh, that's right. Do you want to talk about that? So first of all, maybe tell us what Tamiana is.
Oh, for sure. So you've heard this previously. So this is light language. The more activated I become, or if something is being transmitted, the more that this comes out. And this ties into the Tamiana as well. For all the beings that are listening, you don't need to know what the meaning is of the words. Your body already knows. It knows the frequencies, and it bypasses the mental sphere to allow those frequencies to go in for your body and your spirit to actually fully integrate and receive the healing and the wisdom that comes with the light code. So Tamiana, oh my goodness, this was a completely 100% unexpected journey. This was not anything I actually ever heard of. And then one of my friends, this lovely, amazing human being, Shauna Waffler, if you're ever in Kamloops, BC, she's amazing. She does acupuncture, and she's a profound healer herself. And she had sent this thing to me, and I'd read through, and at the time, so this is around 2017, which blows my mind that it was then, because it feels like it's been, well, it has been forever, but that was my reintroduction to it. And I read the description again and again and again. And every time I read it, I was like, I have no idea what this actually means, but I know I have to do it. So Tamiana is a consciousness from the stars. It uses sacred sigils, so light language encodings. It uses crystals, and it uses sacred geometry to concentrate large amounts of energy into finer and finer and finer vibrational frequencies. And what this does is it helps us with our self-actualization process. And what that means is it helps us remove all those layers that have been placed upon us, that we can go back to our original source code, our original remembering of this is who I am. It helps remove those limiting concepts, those limiting beliefs. It helps change the pattern structures that we have that are comfortably uncomfortable. You know, those ones that you're like, yeah, but I'm fine here, but really I'm not happy. It helps us switch those and detach from the emotions that are attached to them. Detachment isn't a bad word. It allows us to see things clearly as they are. It helps us on all timelines, past, present, and future. It helps us remembering. I have a beautiful being that I work with, and the levels of remembering as they ascend into these finer frequencies and remove these have been absolutely profound and magical. And we're transported together during session. I don't leave you. I don't set and forget, which is how I was trained, is set the crystals, leave the room if you want to. I don't. I'm there with you the whole way.
Oh, I don't remember that part. Yeah.
It was when we were originally trained, it was like, oh yeah, if you need to go grab a tea or something, go for it. And I was like, I can't do that. And in reality, I didn't really know much about Tamiana anyways. But so yeah, so we had learned it was 2017, it might have been 2018. Time is, non-linear when we live in these realms. Yeah, exactly. It was like sometime in the last 42 years. But so it was originally, Tamiana was originally transmitted through Juan Manuel Giordano down in South America. And when we were trained, I had all these questions. I don't know if you remember, but I was like, but what does this symbol mean? And what does that do?
Yeah,
and should I be seeing things that I'm seeing now? Because I kept on seeing all these crazy things. And it was like, I don't know, you just do it. Well, one, that's not my nature, right? I like to know things. But also when you're working with the divine, sometimes you don't know things. But that training was a reactivation for me. That was a remembering for me. That was activation through the Seven Sisters, which are some of my guides, or the council as they're known now, to remember that actually I'm here for the next level of Tamiana. So since then, that's where the light language really started to come out and get activated. And I'd start whispering it in sessions and then start talking. Now it's just there. Now we'd be driving down the street and my child would be like, oh, Mama's getting a transmission, because it'll just come out while I'm driving. But within 4 months, all of a sudden there was another layer and more symbols came through, and I doubted it. I was like, oh, am I really supposed to be this person? And am I messing with something that I'm not supposed to mess with? And they were like, no, this was the reason why you took that, even though you had no idea what it was, and you went and did it anyways. And it was a reactivation. So the level and the type of Tamiana that I practice is called Sacred Heart Tamiana, or Pushkaya ni Asita Tutashkaya. So Juan Manuel was in the right place, the right time, and was an open conduit to receive the transmissions from the Palladians. So it's not a Palladian only based healing consciousness. They were the envoys. They were the ones that brought the information back. But Tamiana is from the whole Galactic Council. You know, so we've got Spikans, we've got Arcturians, we've got the Palladians, and something from each of the beings on the Galactic Council is gifted into Sacred Heart Tamiana. Yeah. that's the short version.
Oh my gosh. So I have a question.
Yes,
your light language, it just comes in with grace and ease, and yet with real strong intention. That's what my experience of your light language is, and it fascinates me. So are they repeating what you're saying, telling you what to say, or that language is infusing what you're saying with a light code, let's say?
All of the above. So how it works now, like, so it's been a progression. It's not like bam, I started speaking light language and it's the way it was now. It's like anything. As you're working with something, the more and more you're working with it, and the more you're becoming it, really. Once you're embodying something, it's different. And we know this from when we learn something in school versus we go out and we practice it, right? It becomes different. When we go and exercise, we're like, this movement feels weird. But then as we become more and more fluid within it. And so the light language now can come out in many different ways. One, like you said, it's infusing what I'm saying, and it's taking it down into remembering within the cells of the people that are listening and receiving it and are bathing it, frequency bathing in it, basically. So it's a deeper level of knowing, like I said, that bypasses the thinking mind. It can also come through as I'm seeing something that is happening, especially if I'm working with a client, like I said, either virtually or on the table, or I'm in a gathering. And then all of a sudden they'll be like, well, there's a Merkaba coming in, and we're sending light down to that right hip that was having challenges, or we're walking up into that temple, and the most profound, seeing the golden light of the golden temple, and the codes are, so the Matrix, the movie, and there's all those like numbers.
Yeah.
Think of it like that.
The motherboard.
But then creating the images. The motherboard, exactly.
The motherboard, yeah.
So it can be that visual that I'm then articulating with light language. It can also be where I want something to happen. So the words are asking the beings that have come in to assist with the session or the gathering or the transmission, to asking them, can you please do this thing? And it works a lot with visuals, and it's putting words for them to those visuals. I don't leave. I don't call myself a channeler. A lot of times channelers actually are just the portal, but they're not actually there. They're like, I step out of the way and it comes through. I am 100% involved. Well, let's say sometimes 20, but like I am still present as things are happening. I'm here for the whole journey. I don't leave. And so it does get intermingled, obviously, with my dynamic and with my lifestyle, not lifestyle, just got my life experience
Mm.
and my education and training. So it kind of becomes a filter for all of it. But it's joined with the divine celestial frequencies.
How much does that, or does that get to come into your acupuncture treatments as well and your phytotherapy sessions? The light
Oh
language.
yeah. So yeah, I don't segment. None
Good.
of my sessions are
I didn't
segmented.
think so.
Beings can I joke that if somebody came in and said, okay, so I only want acupuncture, I'd be like, well, like I can give you acupuncture, but again, I'm not gonna put the needles in. And there's nothing wrong with acupuncturists that work that way, but the way I work is the needles will go in. So I mostly practice esoteric acupuncture, which uses sacred geometry, tree of life, chakras, all these different divine consciousnesses for how the needles are placed within the body. So those go in, and then I'm still there in the room. I use acutonics tuning forks. So once the needles are in, the tuning forks might also come out to create other shifts and frequency changes within the body. Because we have our thinking mind, but it only goes so far with changing our patterns. Because when we have that frequency within our cellular structure, we might be like, I'm changing my pattern mentally, I know, but you're like, but I just keep doing the action. But when we go into frequency, it goes all the way down into the cells, into the blood, into the bones, into the, the skin, all of that, to change that pattern. Or like last week, there was a lot of disruption in pattern, and disruption feels disruptive. It is, but it needs to happen to allow that expansion for new patterns that serve us to actually come in. So multiple things. If something comes in during a session, and it's like, you know what? We need some skull cap, we need some scutellaria, we need that to come in and help with that overage of nervous system, of that everything is too much, you're bringing in too much data and too much information. Then it'll get recommended, and then a potion can be made. It might come in during the session. The only thing that I offer that's separate is beings can have an herbal follow-up if they're on like a herbal protocol and stuff like that. But even if somebody comes in for Tamiana, well, you're probably going to get forks and maybe some needles or some seeds. And it's really, there's no set way that a session looks. It's, you come in, what do you need right now? What is alive right now for that next layer of really coming into like your illuminated, like, this is me. I feel home within me. I'm embodied within me, not everybody else's stuff that they told me I should be. Right? So what does that look like? Depends on the day.
Yes. Well, truly. And I've had that experience. It's like after, it's like, okay, what did you do? How many things did we do? And what happened? Because the more, like, I'll just speak for myself, the more I get out of the way and totally surrender to the space and to your expertise and Derek's expertise, the experience deepens significantly.
Yeah.
Right? Like you just surrender. It's a place of surrendering, which is
and that's exactly
really,
it.
really amazing and very, like, it feels really liberating to just like let it go.
Yeah. And that's one thing, like we talked about earlier about having the space a certain way, is we want people and beings, because some of us aren't people. We just take that
Oh
form.
no.
To feel safe and comfortable enough to be able to surrender. It's so important, because that's where a lot of the healing comes in. And when we're like this and we're tight and we're structured and we're holding on so much, no flow happens. And so much can happen when we surrender. And there's a trust in the fact that you'll still be held, regardless of the sounds, the movements, the emotions that come through while we're working together. And And we don't leave it like post session. I say we a lot because Derek and I,
Yeah.
we follow a lot of the same mechanisms and how we work, in the way of we don't leave you hanging. It's not just like, hey, thanks for coming into a session and then you're gone. You get a full follow-up email. We send follow-up emails intentionally. So any suggestions or rituals or work that you can do at home to support the journey that happened in the room, you are offered, because that's something that I always lacked. I'd go see a healer and then be like, they said this thing, but I don't remember, because you're in bliss state, or you're just literally gone and you're walking around no feet on the ground, and you get home, you're like, I can't remember that thing that they said. And there's this like disconnect from, thank you for doing that process with me, but where am I in that process, and how am I empowered to continue doing what I need to do once I'm not in that session? And so that's something that's really, really important to me in how I practice and how I work with people, is making sure that they have some tools or guidance post session as to help with the integration of the new, because it's new.
Well, I think that's amazing. The follow-up is like incredible. It's sublime. I'm like, oh my God, all this happened. And I didn't even realize it was happening, but I could let go of needing to remember during the process, which interrupts the process. And for me, that's the hardest thing, because we want to be able to take the gems and do something, but we can't remember them because we were, blissed out, as you said. So what you offer that way is like pretty incredible. The follow-up is wow. I thought I better step up my game over here. But truly, like whether I'm working with somebody with their blood or I'm doing a reading myself, I always tell them to just sit back and enjoy the ride and don't worry about the remembering. And that's one of the things I let them record, for example, just like we're recording now, so that you can go back and listen to the recording. That seems to be the easiest in time. And as for time management, makes more sense for what I do. But you guys, and you hammer those things out like boom, they're right there. You're hardly home and you have the whole follow-up. But I imagine for you to document that quickly, then you can let it go because it's fresh in your memory as a practitioner.
Well, exactly. And I have a lot of, like, I'm a detailed note taker. I used to be a mortgage underwriter. And so my history is one of making sure I have details and notes and all of that. So the notes that I take during session and the shorthand and stuff really helps me remember and collect. And I do want to make sure that the person isn't getting the email a week later, because so much can transpire within the 72 hours within that session space, that it's really important. I usually post session, it's like, okay, just let it go and give yourself 24 hours to just be in the presence. Because like you said, people are, and I'm the same way. I'm like, oh, what happened? And I want to know. And we're grasping and we're holding, and it's like, no, just allow and be and see, just kind of be present with what's happening and just notice, and not trying to control or change or anything like that, but just recognizing and noticing the shifts that have happened, right?
The state of consciousness coming out of there is just like you're just gone, like you're in a whole different place. And so my rule with myself is don't plan anything, don't go into a store, just drive home, maybe go for a walk, drink lots of water. Because that's how I can now integrate.
Go hug a tree.
Yeah. The integration process after is
Yeah.
really quintessential to the overall benefit, I would imagine.
Oh, for sure. There's definitely been people that have come in and only once, not only see me once, but they've the first time, and then the next time I see them, they're like, because I'll be like, did you go to work after? Like, what are your plans after? They're like, oh, I'm going to work after this. I'm like, okay. And then the next time I see them, they're like, never again.
It's so true.
They're like,
it's like you can't function.
No, and it's just like you don't, because your frequency shifts so much, or can shift so much, because again, everybody experiences it differently. I find the people that beings that are more within a denser realm. So again, this isn't good or bad, denser, finer vibration. It's just a presence of being, right? A state of being. And beings that are more in a denser realm. So we're talking, you work to play, work and play are not intermingled. Maybe there's a lot more, eating out at fast food joints and stuff like that. Lots of TV and media ingestion. There, that is a subtler, there is a frequency shift that goes up, but it's less, it's less super expansive galactic versus somebody that is doing a lot and embodying a lot of the spiritual and the divine work and lives on a finer frequency. Their work is their play, organic foods and stuff like that. Again, not bad or good, just is. And that is an expansion state. But going from an expansion state, regardless of where you started from, into a 3D realm job, regardless if you do spirit work for a living, you're a counselor, you work in an office building, doesn't matter, can be a bit of a jolting shock, right? So to have that time and that space to integrate is highly recommended.
For me, taking my shoes off coming into the Star Temple is like I have just untethered myself from everything out there. It's just the weirdest sensation, but it's beautiful. I'm going, okay, nothing else matters from here forward in this time. So it's super powerful, even just show up in the room.
Yeah, that's we even if it's not our work day, I'm like, I'm going to the Star Temple today. Just because that's the other thing we have in here too, that makes it so so there's the negative and the positive ions, right? And we want more of the negative ions. Is we have a 5-wave therapy mat on the table, so it's got crystals in it, it's got pulse electromagnetic frequency capacity, it's got low light level lasers, it's got far infrared. And so that is another thing with the 5G bioshield and flow that brings that friction that we feel when we're out in the dirty energy within the 3D world. By dirty energy, I'm talking about a lot of the 5G and all that. It brings that down. So when you step in, you're just like, oh, there's something different. And you can't quite put your finger on it, but it just feels, I think it feels kind of softer, kind of like I just stepped into a cloud.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I so agree. Oh, my goodness. So the Tamiana uses crystals to form a grid system.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Can you tell us more?
But yeah, for sure. So so we originally taught with so first, I'm going to say first wave and second wave. So first wave transmissions were from Juan Manuel. Second wave transmissions are through Sacred Heart Tamiana and myself. I keep looking over to the side there because that's where all my Tamiana stuff is. So we use clear quartz. Clear quartz is the main crystal that is brought in for activation. Clear quartz, well, clear, right? Especially when it's used as a tower, it brings in, it holds the frequencies, it clears the frequencies. It's considered the master healer. It contains all rainbow. We know this. We put like a beautiful quartz in the sunlight, and all of a sudden you're like, I want to go frolic in the rainbow that's on the wall. Also, amethyst is brought in. It can be brought in. Amethyst is a major protector. It's also a type of quartz. And then, as of recent, golden healer quartz. So a new template that just came through in January, called the Tara code. It uses a golden healer with clear quartz as well. And depending on the harmonic resonance, so a harmonic resonance is either a foundational or an advanced template, and there's multiple. So there's the foundational, there's, oh my goodness, there's the Antakarana, which is our rainbow. The foundational is our physical 3D, like it's very much the presence of the now with the 7 planes of existence or the 7 base chakras. We've got the Gaia code, the Pleiadian star code, the light is a new one, the Tara code, the universal hexagram, the group heal. There's like multiples. And depending on which template is being used, depends on how the crystals are moved and where the crystals are placed and how the sacred symbols are also applied. Once they're laid out and they're activated, for myself, there's light language that comes in. Sometimes the forks come in, but transmissions can come through. So as the activation is happening before the next grid is activated, I'm typing away transmissions that are coming through, which sometimes can be full paragraphs per plane that is activated. And then those are sent as well afterwards. And they can give everything from ritual work to, I've had poetry, to inspiration, to guidance, to people often listen to the transmissions afterwards, because we go, at the end of the session, we go through everything that happened to help the person decode what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll be like, that's exactly what I felt. This is exactly, I had that eagle, or I had this presence, or I felt that light, or that's exactly what's happening in my life, because it really tunes into that layer for that person then, right?
Does anyone ever come who isn't ready for this? And how do you adjust?
So the beauty of Tamiana is it's not going to hurt somebody even if they're not ready.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's kind of like Reiki in the sense of you're not going to like all of a sudden dislocate a hip from somebody giving you Reiki and stuff like that, right? Like it's gentle enough. How there is a buffer system in place for myself is because I do offer foundational versus advanced templates. Some of the advanced templates. So one of the questions, so I have an intake that's required for first time. And one of the questions is, what is your spiritual practice? And if I haven't worked with this person before and they've booked an advanced template and I've read through, I will give them a call before the session even begins and talk through with them and just get more of a feel for where they're at to make sure that the template is actually going to be one that is functional for them, and not be too much of a jump from the level that they're currently at for their frequency versus where it could take them. But Tamiana knows exactly, again, even if it's an advanced template, I've had a being come in and say, I want what I had last time, because the time before it was so gentle, and they came out and they're like, I felt so held and it was so beautiful. I felt like I was home, and can I have that? And I said, no. I was like, because I was like, I can't guarantee, this is also, so tongue in cheek. I was like, I can't guarantee that, because Tamiana works on the layer that's meant to be. Well, that session ended up being very, very intense. A lot of emotion, a lot of movement, a lot of sound, and a major release of trauma that had been lingering since childhood that they thought they had processed, but it was sitting within their cells. And Tamiana had known that the first session needed to be that held, that beautiful process of, you're safe, we've got you, so that the next session could be as intense as it was. Without that first holding, the next session, like if it would have just been bam, straight into that intensity, it would have been a different situation, right? So it was like preparatory for them, for their journey. So there's no guarantee of what we can come with, what's alive, we can come with what's an intention. And like you said earlier, there's that space of surrendering, because that sounds scary. What do you mean you have no idea what's going to happen during that session? Well, I know we're going to concentrate a ton of energy, and we're going to help you with your past, present, and future timelines. And we're going to help peel back those limiting concepts and beliefs. But which ones? I can't guarantee that for you. And that's part of that surrendering to, this is what's next on my ascension process, my awakening into my becoming, right?
You're working with fourth dimension, fifth dimension, like how far does it go?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. That's what I expected to hear, but I had to ask. Oh, that's so good.
Well, like because that's the thing, it's like the foundational, it works a lot within our 3, but it's going into all the dimensions, because it goes and collects the different parts and looks at the different parts of you, past, present, future, plus all the levels of your existence in the now. Because we don't just exist in the now, we exist in all these fractaline states, right? And it goes into our chakra systems in all fractaline states, because you don't just have your root chakra within your root chakra, you have your root in your sacral and your solar plexus, and they just fractalize within each other. And so it goes through all of those as well. So there's some that work. Derek's amazing at something will come through, transmit through, and I'll be like, okay, this is what this does. And then we always test all templates before we do anything with anybody else. We make sure that we do the work as well. And he's like, oh, this is a 5D. Oh, this is a 7D. Still works on everything else, but it's focused a little bit more. Like the Tara code is very fifth dimensional. So yeah, so all the dimensions is the short answer.
All the dimensions. Yes. And there are many, many.
There's so many.
Yeah, it's vast. I sometimes wonder whether it's actually infinite, which it likely is.
That's, you just read my mind. I was like, it's like science. All of a sudden they're like, we just discovered this. We just discovered that. We just noticed this. Because it's completely vast. It's completely unlimited. The galaxy is completely unlimited. You know,
we only know what we know.
Multi-dimensional.
Yeah. Sorry. We have a glitch. So
no.
Are you getting the glitch at your end?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Very glitchy over here. So I just spoke over top of you. And what I said, I'll just repeat it, that we only know what we know until we know more, which is, I think, what you're saying. Yes?
That's exactly it.
Okay.
And then sometimes we never know, but we know with a capital N. And that's the difference between the thinking mind and the like split between science and spirit. So I'm very split right down the middle, you know. It took a long time for me to accept that both are true. And there's that knowing of just like when I first started, people would be like, well, how did you know to do that? Or what were you experiencing? I'm like, oh, I just knew what to do. And they're just like, what do you mean you just knew? Right? Because people want to know exactly that thing. The intuitive part can be very disconcerting for people. It's disconcerting. And so it's just, sometimes you're just like, I'm here and I know this is true. Well, there's no proof. It's okay. I feel it. It's true. You know,
it's so interesting because I'm in a sciencey field with doing the live blood. I'm in that field and I know a lot of the sciencey stuff, yet I have a very poor memory with the really deep sciencey stuff because it gets really complex and I'm so not interested in it. I'm not interested. And the more as time goes on, especially in the times we're in now, I'm even less interested in the sciencey stuff because it's about so much more. So it's been this very intriguing kind of shifting that's occurring within my work realm. I still get the job done. I know what I do very, very well, yet my relationship with it is so changing.
Well, you have the tools. This is the thing. You have the science tools.
Yes, they're just tools.
To be able to then go and look in the blood. It's just tools. And then now you can look in the blood in a different way and bring in that spirit aspect, because the blood, we got our blood timelines, we got our ancestral timelines, we've got basically the history of the earth, right? In the blood, and our spirit in the blood. In Chinese medicine, if you're blood deficient, you have Shen disturbance, you have spiritual disturbance. If you are lacking blood. And so you have those tools now. And that's where that knowing comes of like, sweet, I have this tool and now I have this knowing from the other levels of consciousness about the other things that I can now see because I have these tools to go and look.
Blood deficiency is a universal problem. Like in what I see, it's incredible. It's almost everyone.
How does it show up in the blood when you look at it?
Well, there are many indicators. So it can be iron or spleen deficiency, any endocrine disruptions, different things like that.
So what's the visual though?
That's science.
But what's the visual that you see when you?
Well, the actual, what does the blood look like? So
what does the blood look like when there's the deficiency?
So we can see podocytes, which are target cells, and they're a red blood cell with a hole in the middle. So it's empty. And typically this person will, that's in alignment with deficiency. There can be a whole bunch of small, like microcells or microcytes. And that is, comes from the liver, and that's where blood is processed. So, we have a lot of indicators there, and where there's withholding, and where there's, there's condensation in how we experience the world. It's very connected to our emotional being, to the way we play in life, what we don't engage in life, where our hindrances are. So it's so directly proportional to how we play.
Well, and that makes so much sense, because when we're deficient, we're not grounded, right? Because when we think about it, we have iron in our blood. What is iron? Iron is the earth. Gaia. And I find it interesting. The reason I ask, like, what does it look like, is because in TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, we often talk about, like, so if we have the vessel and you're blood deficient, it can be like half full or less. And so it literally is like this emptiness. And then the vacuity, the space, then wind can get in there and create this, like, anxiety and chaos and structures. So I find it very interesting that, and I love finding these correlations of, like, these traditions or these modalities that have these parallels that maybe never talked to each other, because it's a consciousness that just shows up with different messaging depending on how you're looking.
Well, I think officially we should all learn Chinese medicine to know all those things, because there's so much in there.
Yeah.
If I had time and space to do that, I always wanted to, but I decided, no, I need to just focus on what I'm doing without getting out here. But if I was a little bit younger, perhaps that would be a thing. But it works. We're, like you said, we're all saying the same thing. Numbers of times that I refer people to an acupuncturist to work with that aspect of themselves. I mean, it's so complementary, and I can evidence the change. So that's what I love to do, is be able to show people that all the things that you did made this blood blissful, literally, and balanced and joyful in its journey across the screen. It's a great screen.
It's so fast. It's so fascinating, because I've worked with you, and it's watching it is just like, and it makes so much sense.
Yes.
As to what you're feeling in your body when you're like, oh, that's in me. Oh, that makes sense why I'm feeling this way. And it's such an aha moment, watching your blood going across the screen.
Oh, yeah. It's pretty trippy for some. I know, some people are just mesmerized, and I'm talking to them and they're just like not there. It's like, and I, oh, right, this is just so beautiful, and they don't know what it means yet. They can. I often ask, okay, so if you could interpret how life was going for you in relationship to what you see, what would that, what would you say? And they're going, frustration. I'm so frustrated. I'm this, I'm that. And they have a whole storyline of how it's going for them, using the pictures, using the visuals that are right in front. And it's, again, evidence for how they feel. It's like, okay, finally somebody understands. It's really cool.
You're able to see. And it's not just that it's being seen. It's like when somebody comes and right, it's being seen, because sometimes somebody will, you're talking to somebody and you go, oh, I hear that's really frustrating. And all of a sudden they're just like, oh, versus, oh, let me fix you. Right. As there's a difference. And it's that pure being seen, and like, see, I'm not crazy. Something is happening, and some people need that physical connection space. It makes me think of the art, like art therapy, or I can't speak the words, but I can draw them. And you're literally using like the art of blood. You're looking at the messaging and the art within that which pumps through our very veins,
I used to say that looking at the blood is like, it's a form of art. So it's a beautiful artistic expression of what's happening inside. And again, it's the language of blood. I'm just developing a course called The Language of Blood, and not digging deep into the science, in the real kind of histology point of view, because that's even beyond, I just have no interest in going there. But in terms of how it speaks to us, how it holds us, how it's always there for us, and how it's very quick to respond when it's listened to, when it's heard, when it's seen.
Oh, I'm excited for that. And this is the thing, is we need more, I feel we need more of these things, because that other stuff's already out there.
I know, yeah, I would
You know,
absolutely agree.
somebody can go look up that science stuff. No, we
Yeah.
need that, like, okay, now here's the spirit stuff. It's like even phytotherapy, you know, with the herbs, and there's tons. And it's not that this stuff, again, this stuff is not, it's not bad. It's just there's
No.
so much of the, okay, here's the constituents, here's how to make the tincture, here's like exactly how to do this, versus here's the spirit of the plant, you know. And sometimes we need both, sometimes we just need one. And I love that you're doing the language of blood. I love it. I'm
Yay.
excited for it.
Yes,
Oh yeah.
I really am too. It's definitely still in the creation process, but it's coming along. So that's exciting to look forward to. In all that you do even more. You are now you have music in your life.
Yes.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Oh my goodness. So this is another thing that I never thought I would say, that I've released an album. Like that's never something that I thought that would come. So the light language, it's very profound, right? A lot of people say it feels like home, and it creates these shifts that again are unpredictable, but are exactly what people need in that moment. Because we take what we need from the language in the moment. And so it would have been a couple of years ago. So Derek's an Aries, so he's very much, let's do this now. And I'm like,
Yes.
yeah. So I've got this idea now. I'm gonna finesse it a little bit. And you know, my Aquarius side, I'm like, I've got these ideas and let's create, but give me a sec. I got to figure out how to do this. And so we finally, on one of the biggest Exit the Matrix days of Christmas of 2022, we recorded fully an 11-track light language album called Exit the Matrix, New Earth Activation. And it moves through 11 tracks of soundscapes, which Derek created very patiently with me, because we you know this, we have two very different aesthetics.
Yeah.
He's very Aries, out there, let's do this, let's add more. And I'm very much like, my nervous system needs some relaxing. And so he very patiently worked with me, and he always says I'm refining the processes. So we recorded on Christmas the 11 tracks, and then we released it on January 11th, and it moves through a whole journey. I think it's about an hour and a half. And we've got Exit the Matrix, there's releasing fear, dissolving anger, cellular restructuring, Merkaba respin, 0 point field, all the way up to New Earth Activation. And it's a journey album. So you can listen to the tracks separately. Expanding the heart field frequency is a much loved one. The one that seems to be getting the most love, because we also have visuals on the YouTube channel, my YouTube channel. We put it to visuals as well. And the Merkaba respin apparently has taken off, but that was not the one I expected to. But you can listen to, so often in session, something will come through. I'm like, I want you to go listen to this track, like cellular restructuring, 3 times over the next week before you see me again. But to move through from the beginning to the end is a full transformation. It's a shedding. The one, I'm not remembering right now because it doesn't want me to. There's one track that every time I listened to it, as I was working on the album, I broke down. Full on, ugly cry, release, but it was that kind of release that was, you come out of it and you're just like, oh, I needed that like super big cry of cleansing, and you come out, you're like, oh, there's another layer, and everything feels clear, and you feel more in your purpose and more just like present.
Mhm.
I can now listen to the track and it doesn't do the same thing to me, but that was my pure example for my state of, oh, this is how powerful this album can be. Because I'm always like, oh, little old me, it's fine, just listen to it, you'll be okay. And then I'm just like, there's power behind this. And then Derek has since done a remix. So I have a Bandcamp page called Sacred Starseed Sound, and the remixes have not been applied yet, but Derek then took the tracks, remixed them, put his own vocals on top, and more information about each of the things, like the dissolving anger, the expanding the heart field, and then made them, it's more of a dance album, let's put it that way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome. So yeah, so now I can say I've released a album, and we do have plans for more albums to come as well. This was just the first one. Yeah.
What a powerful combination you two are. Oh my gosh. Between his technology, like he's a techie for sure. And both
Yeah.
of you with all your transmissions, and wow, it must be really incredible at your house sometimes.
Yeah, he's my database. I'll just be like, because I don't hold, like you said, all the like
Yeah,
deep, intense
yeah.
knowledge of like the science stuff. I could be like, so 5D, and I'm like, and I have to look stuff up. Whereas I go to him and he's like, oh, and I have to be like, okay, you get 5 minutes. That's all. That's all I need, because
Yeah.
he just like holds the data like that. Whereas I more embody and practice in that a little bit of a different way. So between the two of us, it's pretty. Yeah, let's just say our house, we like being in our house.
I bet. Yes, yes. No kidding. I'd like to be a fly on the wall. Just watch it all come down. Oh my goodness.
Right?
And
Right?
you
Yeah.
have a son who, I just wanted to talk about this because it was just
Yeah.
the best little tip for those who are experiencing, and I don't want to say negative, but dense energies in places. You mentioned that he was
Yeah.
experiencing, it's like a little tip of the day. He was experiencing some dense energy at this place, and so you told him to get a bottle. Can you share that with people and put it outside the door?
Yeah. Yeah. So my lovely little being is very open and receptive to the other realms as well. And it can be intense for the little beings because of they're like, what do we do with this? And I didn't have the support when I was a child. I grew up in a small town, and it's like, don't talk about that stuff. That stuff doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It's your imaginary friend. You're crazy, like all these things. And that was just their reality. So it's okay. So I have a very expansive child, and I got a message the other day being like, Mama, I think there's a spirit. And the cats were totally reacting and all this other stuff. And so it was actually beautiful. So I had first recommended putting salt, putting a little dish of salt by the door of the room that they were in. Because then that draws in that negative energy. It's kind of like if you think of trying to walk across a floor with Legos or tacks, you don't want to. So the spirit's like, I don't want to, right? And then I'd also recommended, I was like, talk to them like they're a human, like just no thanks, I'm good. I'm not interested right now. If you're here to help me, you're actually scaring me. So I need you to leave. And you just talk as if they're there, right? And they messaged me back. And this just made my
Oh,
heart
interesting.
like so happy. Yeah, they were like, and I also put a bottle. And I was like, oh yeah. And so a bottle with a narrow neck. And this is old traditional wisdom where they would like tie empty bottles to trees, right? And so the sound of the trees, or the bottles in the trees, as well as like the little hole, right? So the spirit's like, ooh, what's going on in there? And then they go in, but then they can't find their way out. And so they actually had tapped into wisdoms that I had shared throughout the years, because they're included. I don't hide this part from them. They know, who my counsel is. They've had Tamiana sessions. Tamiana is totally appropriate for children. And so they've had those sessions, they've had tuning forks and all of this. And through that time, this is some of the information that they digested. And so they're like, yeah, I did already ask them about this thing. I'd like to leave. And then they're like, and then I put this bottle. And I was like, oh, my heart. I was like,
Aw.
it like,
So
you
he
know, it's
remembered
like
to do that.
he remembered to do the one with the bottle. And it's, our children are growing up differently now. Again, a lot of them are very open. A lot of my clients that have children talk about how open their children are. And it's like, well, what tools can we teach them? And there's lots. There's so many that we can teach to help them integrate, to help them be, instead of stuffing it and suppressing it, because then it can make us feel like we're crazy. And we live in this time, which is so beautiful and so lovely. Like, if I was speaking light code a decade ago, people have been like, maybe. But now it's just becoming more and more and more accepted of all these things, and that there's something greater than us. There's the divine. And I want my child to grow up feeling okay with who they are and able to be who they are. And this is just one part and one way we can support them through it, right? A good book, if anybody's looking for a really good book to help with incorporating ritual and stuff like that with their children, it's called Circle Round by Starhawk. It's got lots of stories and practices and rituals and stuff that's within the level of digestibility for the kidlets, right? Yeah.
Did you say you were giving classes or doing little sessions regarding that with children, or just with your own child?
I do it with Zephyrin, my kidlet, and but I've worked with children in session. I haven't done trainings or anything like that. Let's just say I have a lovely list of different trainings that I'm like, this is next, and then this one, and then that one.
Yeah. Well, so many of the children, like you said, are like, they are little star seeds, and they're so aware of so many things, and to know what to do with that when they feel afraid is huge. I know I have a grandson who's like very aware, and that book, I'm gonna see if I can find that book for him and his lovely parents. So
it's so good. There's like baking stuff in it. It talks about like, Beltane and like crafts and stuff. And then there's stories about the gods and goddesses. And it's a really, there's music, there's songs. It's a really, really great book.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really awesome.
That is
Yeah,
awesome.
no.
Well, Hilary, this has been so much fun. I don't know how much time we spent working through the computer glitches, but here we are. Yeah, and it's been really quite cooperative. And again, I really, really, really encourage people to seek you out for an absolutely multidimensional, out of this world experience. You have so many skills and you have so much confidence in what you do. And I really like that about you. It's a confidence that is not ego driven. You are so held and supported by all the realms that you deal with. And that's what makes you so amazing. Thank you.
Oh, I appreciate you. I was so pleased that we were in that healing training, Tamiana training so many years ago. I was like, oh, it's Maureen.
Yeah,
And
I was
then
so excited.
now we're here.
And now we're here. Oh my
So
gosh.
exciting.
And it's going to get even more exciting, even, with all the densities that are existing and all the shifts and all of that. This is really good to have in your back pocket. And I think having alignments, and I was just checking my pockets here. I think using the services or being on the table with somebody like you and somebody like Derek, because you guys are both so incredibly talented, it is foundational to navigating these times.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I can speak for myself, but I feel very blessed for what I'm able to do, and like humbled every single time there's
Yes.
a session that like it just, yeah, it humbles me every single time. And yeah, I don't know what else I would do if I wasn't doing this. So
I agree. Well, I'm really glad that there's
yeah.
nothing else that you can do besides this. So that's pretty great. I am very grateful for you. And just this has been so fun. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh. I have one last question. Does light language follow you
Yeah.
to the grocery store?
Oh, 100%. It follows me everywhere. I've been in the grocery store doing something and I'm like, I don't know. And then all of a sudden, like, blah, 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 and I'm just like, oh, okay, I'll take that one then.
Wow, that is crazy. I
Yep.
love it. I love it. And I love that you dare to be you. Isn't that amazing? So
Right.
yeah, the unique expression, right? Is I mean, we're all so unique, but you are just definitely that, and in the best of ways. It's just
Oh,
so
thank
wonderful
you.
to have you in my life. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And thanks to everybody who listened. We'll have all the details on how to connect with Hilary available when this is aired, which is, there's a lineup, but it's okay. It's worth waiting for. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Hilary.
Oh, thank you so much, Maureen. Love you so much.
You too. You too.